Good afternoon. This meeting, including the audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. This Zoom meeting and YouTube live stream event will include the following agendas. The 1 o'clock agenda of the Committees on Housing and Water and Land, the 1:15 agenda of the Committees on Housing and Human Services, and the 1:30 agenda of the Committees on Housing and Government Operations, and the 1:30 decision-making of the Committee on Housing. We'll begin, our first will be the Joint Committees on Housing and Waterland. So from the Committee on Housing today, we have myself, Vice Chair Drew Kanuha, Senator Rhodes, and Senator Moriwaki. Chair Inouye.
Yes, aloha. For the Committee on Water and Land, we have your chair, Senator Inouye, and we do have our esteemed members. We have Senator Nisa Lucha and we have Senator Revere present. And we do have two others. My Vice Chair Agaran will be here soon, as well as Senator Favela. Thank you, Chair.
Great. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committees will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 1 p.m. Next Tuesday, which is March 22nd, in this room, 225, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. For all those participating remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. Okay. We have one bill on today's joint agenda. It is House Bill 2023 relating to transit-oriented development. It authorizes the issuance of general obligation bonds and appropriates funds for certain transit-oriented development projects identified in the state strategic plan on transit-oriented development. And our first testifier for this measure is the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development and Support. Okay, if they're not here, then next we have Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation in support. The Maui MPO Policy Board in support. And Regina Gregory in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 2023? Okay. If not, members, are there any questions or discussion?
It's kind of interesting because usually Denise is here, but I don't see her now.
Yeah, maybe they're.
Can you just ask IT? Because
Yeah.
they didn't make comment. Usually they're on if this is no one is available. IT, can you check if the two people from Office of Planning or HFDC?
They're not present, Chair.
All right, at least we know.
Okay. All right, in that case, we'll go into recess and we'll come back for decision making.
A little channel.
All right, so the Committees on Housing and Water and Land are back from recess for decision making. Having conferred, the recommendation for House Bill 2023 HD1 relating to transit-oriented development will be to pass this measure with amendments to insert a $2 million appropriation, as was originally requested in the bill. Okay, so for the Committee on Housing, recommendation for House Bill 2023 is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
For the Committee on Housing on House Bill 2023, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Moriwaki.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Favela excused. Chair, you have 4 ayes. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the Committee on Water and Land, same recommendation to pass HB 2023 House Draft 1 with amendments. Any discussions, members? Hearing none. Chair votes aye. Senator Alvarado for the vote.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Lucia.
Aye.
Senator Revere. Senator Bell is excused. Recommendation adopted.
Okay. End of our agenda, and there being no further business, this hearing. Good afternoon and welcome to the 1:15 hearing of the Committees on Housing and Human Services. For the Committee on Housing, we have myself, Vice Chair Senator Kanuha, Senators Rhodes and Moriwaki.
And for Human Services, there is myself and Senator Lucia. That's it. Sorry.
Okay. We have two measures on the agenda today. The first is House Bill 1749 with the Housing Lead. Our first testifier, Office of Information Practices with comments, followed by Department of Budget and Finance with comments, followed by State Council on Developmental Disabilities in support, Department of Human Services with comments. Are they with us? Okay, right. Oh, I think Human Services is here.
Whether he is, yes.
Sorry, guys. Scott Nagasoni, Department of Human Services. The department stands on its written testimony, providing comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness in support.
Good afternoon, chairs. Scott Marshy, Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness and Chair of the Hawaii Interagency Council on Homelessness. I'll send my written testimony supporting the intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Common Cause Hawaii with comments. Catholic Charities Hawaii in support.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Debbie Dubois from the Catholic Charities Hawaii. And we feel, can you hear me? We feel that this is really a key bill to start future planning of housing and services for many of our vulnerable populations. Permanent supportive housing is a proven model. It's worked well with homeless, and it would work well with all the other populations who need this, including the DV population that are becoming interested in these housing bills also. We feel that another important part of this bill is it reaches a wide range of stakeholders, especially bringing together developers and service providers, or bringing together developers and service providers so that really good models can be looked at both sides. What's the right design, but what's the right service match for the different populations that might benefit from this kind of planning. We feel this is really a far-reaching vision for the state. And so this is a key bill. However, we do have one amendment to suggest. We really like it that you have two supportive housing services users already as members. However, we urge that you either add one member who's formerly homeless, or you designate that one of the two already on the council or the task force would be someone with who's a formerly homeless person. We feel that this member would really add a unique a unique experience that would be able to talk about the barriers, the hopes for this permanent supportive housing. Since ending homelessness is such a top priority for the state, we feel that having a person with lived experience in the planning process would really be critical for this effort. Thank you very much for hearing this important bill.
Thank you. Next testifier is Matthew A. Cohen in support. Are they on the Zoom? Okay. And if not, then we also have individuals Sue Burke, Barbara, and Sandra Oshiro all in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on HB 1749 HD1? Okay. If not, members, any questions?
Chair, I have a question of Betty
Senator
Lou
Moriwaki.
Larson. You mentioned that you want another person on the task force, formerly homeless person. If you look at page 6, it requires both the speaker and the president to appoint a supportive housing services user or advocate. Is that different than a homeless person, or how would you?
The advocate wouldn't necessarily be homeless. The user would be, could be DD, could be elderly, could be different. We feel that because homelessness is such a critical issue, that one of those should be designated as a homeless, or add one more.
So how would you characterize it then? That supportive housing services user, and then take out the advocate? Would that suffice, or is it you want to?
Who is homeless, just to
Homeless.
designate it as being
Just a
or
homeless.
formerly homeless, because they're not homeless.
Formerly
once they're in
homeless
housing.
or homeless.
Right. Thank you.
Actually, before you leave, as I'm reading this more carefully, Betty Lou, so one of them is appointed by the House and one of them by the Senate. So we would have to designate one of them. Would it be better to have the House Speaker's designee or the President's designee?
I don't think we really have an opinion on that, as long as there's one who's formerly homeless. Or if you wanted to add one more member who is formerly homeless, that would be another way, just as a member. Like, thank you for adding me a member from the continuums of care was added in an earlier version, so that both Neighbor Islands and Oahu's continuums could bring their data and their other experience as providers to the table.
Oh, I see. So it could be one of the
Just a general member.
one of the members, not one of the, okay. Okay, thank you.
Either way would be fine with us.
Thank you.
So I have a question. You might as
Sorry.
well stay here, because you don't know who was testifying
I'll stay.
already. So I'm looking at line 16 to 17 on page 6. All appointees shall have expertise relating to housing or supportive housing services. Should we just also modify that, or have experienced homelessness? And I guess my other question would be, instead of adding, wouldn't it be better, because the bigger the task force, the more unwieldy it is, right?
That's why we thought maybe designating one of the two who are already
Yeah,
designated might be appropriate, but that's up to the committee to decide what's
Okay.
best.
right. Okay, so not only, I was thinking, maybe not just somebody who has experience, but may likely be homeless, because I'm thinking about somebody who is like recently incarcerated, and maybe somebody who would probably experience homelessness. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be one of the designated, or if
So
That
I
person
mean, I'm
probably
not
isn't
just saying
an
lived in
Mhm.
experience, but likely to be homeless is what I was thinking. Is that a modification to your proposed amendment that you are willing to support?
I think so, as long as they have some experience and knowledge, which they would have because they're facing that.
Okay, and yeah, and also the possible amendment to line 16 and 17 about the expertise to include or having experienced homelessness.
Often they call it lived experience of
Okay,
homelessness.
or
That
having.
seems to be the term that's
Okay.
commonly used.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I have another question of,
Yeah, you might as well
not
say
of
it.
Betty Lou, but of, I
Okay.
think Scott Marshy. I thought I saw him on. Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Scott, one of the OIP has a concern that on page 7, lines 10 to 11, the task force be exempt from Chapter 92. They're always concerned about that. Is there any reason why you would want this large task group to be exempt from 92?
Oh, thank you for the question. I believe the exemption from Chapter 92 would help the group to meet more quickly and to make recommendations prior to the next session. I think it would allow them to be more responsive and have more free discussions about some of the different issues involved. And it would be similar, I think, in the way that permitted interaction groups of a state commission or board are exempt from Chapter 92. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further discussion or questions? Comments? If not,
Okay.
turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Calling HB number 1744, which is relating to homelessness, authorizes the issuance of general obligation bonds for the development and construction of permanent supportive housing to address the needs of chronically homeless individuals and families and other vulnerable populations. Permits the Hawaii Housing and Finance Development Corporation to consider an application for any competitive federal low-income housing tax credit from the Hawaii Public Housing Authority or partner or both for construction of permanent supportive housing units. Okay, first up, we have, I'm looking at the people present first. Calling the people in the room, we have Betty Lou Larson testifying for Catholic Charities and Support. Oh, I see HHFBC here too. But go ahead.
Okay.
So are you still in support of 1744? Do you want to add or?
We wanted to add that, it's very difficult to find landlords for chronically homeless. So we feel that this is a gap in housing that's not really being addressed. And we need housing, of course, at all the levels. We need our rent housing trust fund. We need, home ownership. But this really is a gap. And it's not just a services gap because we have services. It's a housing gap. And no one's really wanting to create that, right? There needs to be some subsidy. So we feel this is really important to take that first step to really look at, and it's not only chronically homeless, so that's a state priority, it's other vulnerable populations. By doing this, you would spark, just like the Ohana Zone sparked a lot of interest, new models. It gives incentive for developers and service providers to come together. So we feel this is an important bill, as well as the task force, because it really would start movement on the housing in a small way. We were asking for 25 million compared with the 300 million, which we hope the legislature will give the rental housing revolving fund. But the 25 million is really important to spark that discussion and really brings some, some small models. It might be small apartment buildings being renovated, like 15 units or something. So it'll give us an opportunity to look at various things and involve more people in actually a real life, housing situation development.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No one else having registered to testify in person in 1744. So I'm going to call on the Zoom people. We have Hawaii Public Housing Authority, Hakeem Wasafi in support.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We do stand on our testimony in support, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Ian Hirokawa for DLNR and comments.
Good afternoon, chairs and vice chairs, members of the committee. Ian Hirokawa with DLNR Land Division. We'll stand on our testimony supporting the intent of the measure and offering our comments and be available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have Kevin Moore providing comments for DLNR. Okay, we're going to move on. Next up, we have Russell Suji for DLNR providing comments. Okay, next up, we have Scott Marshy, the Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness, providing comments.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members. I stand on my testimony supporting the intent and acknowledge the need for additional supportive housing throughout our state. In particular, proposed general obligation bonds would be a really critical tool to close the housing gap for homeless individuals and other vulnerable populations. However, one thing I wanted to add to my testimony is that in discussion with Department of Human Services and many of the providers, we're seeing a real growing need for individuals who need even higher level of care than what supportive housing can provide. And this includes individuals with severe mental illness, chronic medical conditions, and chronic substance abuse. We believe that additional short-term shelter and triage capacity is really needed to address this growing need. So if this measure proceeds, I'd respectfully ask for the legislature's consideration to amend the bill to also include a targeted pilot program to support the shelter and housing needs of this very vulnerable and difficult to serve population. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have State Procurement Office in opposition. Okay, we have Laura Thielen, Partners in Care and Support. Okay, and then we have, oh, there we have Bob Woodlow, Partners in Care. Please proceed.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Bob Wardlaw. I'm standing in for Laura Thielen for Partners in Care. We stand in strong support of this bill, and just want to highlight that this would be a huge help in getting our the chronically homeless individuals housed. There are many barriers like severe mental illness, severe drug addiction, that regular landlords are usually unwilling to take, and this is one of the key components to getting these people off the street. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. And we don't have anyone else registering to testify. Anybody present or on Zoom wishing to testify on HB 1744, please proceed. Okay, and this is IHS.
I'm Connie Mitchell. I'm the executive director for IHS. And I just wanted to say I super support this bill. And I also wanted to offer comments, similar to what our governor's coordinator on homelessness said, because we do deal with some of the most vulnerable and severely compromised people, that some of them can't take advantage of housing right away. And so we really do think that, it would be great if there was a place where people could be triaged. It includes some of the people that Scott mentioned, but it also includes people who are suffering from cognitive disorders, dementia, and stuff like that, where, they need to be stabilized a little bit more, and we need to determine what it is that somebody needs when they go into housing, if they are, or if they need a higher level of care as well. But I think what we're trying to do is sort people into the correct type of housing, and that is really needed, and it is a gap in our service right now. So I just wanted to ask that, there be a consideration to add some funding to allow for such a pilot program, because for some of the worst, the most severe people, they wouldn't have a chance otherwise to get into housing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wishing to testify on HB 1744? Members, Human Services first. Any questions? Okay, any questions of housing?
I do. Scott, is Scott Marshy on? Scott, so we heard from IHS and you that these are vulnerable people that we would like to serve and aren't served. So this pilot project that you mentioned will be able to help these individuals that nobody else wants, I suppose. And could you just elaborate what that might be, this sort of triage type program?
Thank you. So I think as I just described, it's really about providing a place where we can assess and really identify the needs of each unique individual and appropriately triage them to the right level of care. And as I just mentioned, there are many individuals who either have dementia, traumatic brain injury, or other conditions where they would really need more specialized care than even what supportive housing can provide. So creating a pilot that could provide a place where you can triage and assess the needs and then appropriately transition individuals to the right level of care, I think would fill a critical gap in our system.
And this pilot project we run out of DHS, is that correct? Under the homeless coordinator program, I guess.
Well, through the homeless programs office, we've had discussion with internally with DHS about potentially hosting such a pilot within Department of Human Services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So any other questions? So I have a question of Scott Marshy. Hi. So I noticed that the whole triage center pilot program wasn't part of the original bill. I guess my concern and is one, do you expect these GO bonds to pay for the triage center? Because my understanding of the original bill, how do we pay for the triage center? Is it?
So, no, thank you, Chair, for the question. You're correct. I think as initially envisioned, this bill and the GO bonds are really meant to address supportive housing. We would suggest adding a part 2 to the bill that would potentially include a separate appropriation for a pilot program. This is really because of ongoing discussion with service providers and increased calls from people in the community about individuals that they're encountering on the streets and sidewalks and public places who really have this higher level of need. And I think it's looking at trying to identify a more comprehensive approach so we're able to fill the housing gap to the supportive housing piece of the bill. And I think the pilot that we're potentially talking about could fill an additional gap in our system.
Okay, so when I know there's some bills on the Ohana zones, and every Ohana zone I have visited have triage centers in them. They have wraparound services, they assess the people coming in. So does this pilot program envision funding those triage centers in the Ohana zones, or is it a separate pilot program?
I think it could be done either way, but I think having a separate pilot program would allow more targeted focus on the needs of the pilot. For the Ohana Zones program, as you mentioned, there's a number of existing Ohana Zone programs, and part of the intent with the Ohana Zone legislation is to sustain funding for some of those existing programs, as well as to provide flexibility to further innovate. But I think if the intention is to have a specific focus on this new population that we're seeing, I think having a separate dedicated pilot may be the best way to really focus the attention on that.
Okay. I guess the other thing is I am mindful of the last year's Supreme Court's decision on the gut and replace. And this bill, I mean, your addition doesn't really fit the GO bonds, which is supposed to be a capital improvement. Have you checked with the attorney? What I'm concerned with is if we add this and it gets invalidated, then we kind of poison pill the original bill.
I agree with that concern, and I think my intent in just bringing this to the committee's attention is just to increase awareness about this additional need in the community. And unfortunately, I'm not able to speak to whether how this relates to the Supreme Court ruling on gut and replace. I'm just
you haven't checked with the Attorney
additional need
General.
in the community.
Sure.
Okay. So in the event, I mean, because I like the idea of the triage center, because I've seen how it worked in the Ohana zones, and I think also in Kauhiki Village, yeah, that's run by IHS, has also triage. And so I do like that. But what I'm concerned about is in the event that we don't, that the triage center section does not pass. Do you have an intention of at least bringing it up next year as a bill, as a separate bill? Because we can't.
I think we're open to looking at any way to potentially address the needs that we're seeing come up. And we would note that there are other bills moving, including bills that have passed through Human Services dealing with similar concepts of medical respite. I believe recently your committee passed out House Bill 1797, which deals with a similar kind of medical respite and stabilization type of program.
I have no questions, and I know you have,
Yeah.
that's your.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I want to say that this is a really critical program. We don't see any kind of triage center now that will take those who are really vulnerable, the mental health problems, the drug abuse problems. And so I'd like to see this happen. Two things. One, I don't think it's a gut and replace. I think it is an addition. And the broad title was approved. I guess it was okayed by the Attorney General. So I don't think that the gut and replace applies to this. The Attorney General said the homeless, relating to homeless, is a broad title. So I just want to put that before us. The other is that there is a nexus because we're talking about the vulnerable population for building housing. So a pilot like this could give us more information when we do build out the housing, that we have the appropriate services. And this is a huge need that we don't see. Some of the shelters we have, even though HANA zones, don't have the medical, pharmaceutical, and mental health assistance that's needed at site. So I would hope that we would encourage a look at this as well as the housing that needs to be built. And I think Scott had mentioned it could be a part 1, part 2 for this bill, but I think this would really enhance the bill and what can be done with the housing when it's built. So my question is for Scott, looking at the nexus between the providing of services and a pilot to be added to the HPHA building out of the housing to have the kind of services on site that we're talking about.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So we're talking, you had mentioned that this could be a part 2 of the bill, that it would provide the services to the vulnerable, and these might be the chronically homeless that we're talking about that would be housed in the building that HPHA is looking at building out. Whether this would have that nexus to provide the pilot project for services that would be suitable for the housing when it's built.
Thank you for the question. I want to caveat that I'm not an attorney and I don't want to give any type of legal opinion on the nexus or the appropriateness. I think what I can speak to is the title of the bill is relating to homelessness, and I think if you look at addressing the issue of homelessness overall, there is a need to address homelessness both through the supportive housing in the current form of the bill with general obligation bonds for the Hawaii Public Housing Authority. But as I've mentioned, I think as we have ongoing conversations, there really is a need to fill additional aspects of what we're seeing in the homeless population. And what we had suggested and just brought to the committee's attention is there really is a need to fill this gap. And I think the mechanism to do that, I think that's within it's a decision for the committee to make. And I think what I'm doing is just bringing to you that there's a need in the community. And I think that's echoed by the testimony from IHS, and other providers have also mentioned in conversation that there is really this need with people that they're seeing on the streets that they cannot currently serve through any of our existing programs and services that we have in our continuum. So it would really require something new to be developed.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I guess I have a follow-up, because it looks like to me there is no Senate companion. So if we pass this with which I consider as an attorney a potentially problematic but a necessary program, do you have any other alternatives, Mr. Morishige, in the event that this bill gets invalidated, if we put in this addition? I mean, is there another goal bonds that will increase the capital improvement of HPHA?
So,
or supportive housing?
what I would say is I'm not aware of other vehicles for the jail bond supportive housing component. And I do want to clarify that I believe that that component, what the current content of the bill is very critical. And I agree that I don't want to adversely impact the current content of the bill. I think if you're looking at alternative means of possibly supporting this new need brought to the committee's attention, the Ohana Zones bill is one potential vehicle for that. And I do know that the House Bill 2512, I think, was recently scheduled for hearing in the Senate.
And frankly, that's what I was thinking about, because we already have triage centers in the Ohana Zone. So what we can do, that is a possibility then. Okay, I have no further questions.
Sure.
Yes.
Chairs. So with regard to the League of Women Voters case, I mean, the worst case internally before it leaves the body, the worst case scenario is we just have to, somebody has to hear it one more time or something. Mm-hmm. So if we pass it along and SMA says, hey, you know what, that's probably not going to work, then I don't know who it is. Either we have to hear it one more time or the House has to hear it again. Okay. So I think it's fixable internally, even if it's a little bit of a stretch. My feeling is it's not a stretch, but even if it is, I don't think it's insurmountable if it's that, and I agree that it's important.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a question? Because we can talk about that in decision.
No, just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
we can go into, are you ready to go into decision making? Okay, recess for decision making. I don't have quorum anyway.
Welcome back to the joint hearing of the Committees on Housing and Human Services. Our first measure today is House Bill 1749, HD1. The chairs having conferred, the recommendation will be to pass this measure with amendments. We'll take OIP's suggested amendment to delete the Sunshine Law exemption at page 7, lines 9 to 11, and also Catholic Charities suggestion to add one task force member with lived experience of homelessness. Okay, any questions or discussion? Committee, Chair,
yes.
Chair, any
no
questions? Okay. All right, hearing none, the recommendation for HB 1749 HD1 is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
For the Committee on Housing, HB 1749 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Moriwaki.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Favela is excused. Chair 4 ayes. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Okay, Human Services not having quorum, we are going to recess decision making on both bills to 3:05 p.m. at this room 225. Same day. 225. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did you have your recommendation for him?
I'm sorry, same recommendation, but we will defer decision making.
And then how about the next bill?
Or sorry. So 1744, with much discussion, Chair is going to recommend that on page 4, section 3, lines 10 to 13, we are going to, per the amendments provided by the Governor's Coordinator on Homelessness, we're going to add in a section 1, add a third purpose at the bottom of the preamble, authorizing Department of Human Services to establish a homeless triage center pilot to provide temporary shelter and referral services for homeless adults with serious mental illness, chronic medical conditions, or chronic substance abuse. And add in a section that there is established a 5-year homeless triage center pilot program to be administered by the Department of Human Services. The purpose of the homeless triage center shall be to provide temporary shelter and referral services for homeless individuals with serious mental illness, chronic medical conditions, or chronic substance abuse. The pilot program shall assist homeless adults to access appropriate treatment, shelter, care, and housing. And the homeless triage center pilot program shall cease to exist on June 3rd, 2027, and add another section. There is appropriated out of the general revenues of the state of Hawaii the sum of $2,500,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 for the establishment, implementation, and administration of the homeless triage center pilot program established under this act. The sum appropriated shall be expended by the Department of Human Services for the purposes of this act and may be used for necessary administrative and other costs of implementation, including one full-time planner or specialist position. Add in SMA amendments, which is insert the phrase "one of" before the phrase "the highest." And technical non-substantive amendments, we're going to also add in a defect date. In the committee report, no. Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Again, we are going to defer decision making, but for housing.
Okay, so for the Committee on Housing, we'll have the same recommendation to pass House Bill 1744 HD2 with amendments. Any discussion or questions, members? Okay, Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Moriwaki.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Pavella is excused, 4 ayes, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And there being no further business for this joint hearing, we are adjourned. Good afternoon and welcome to the 1:30 meeting of the Joint Committees on Housing and Government Operations. For the Committee on Housing, myself, Vice Chair Drew Kanuha, and members Carl Rhodes and John Moriwaki.
Let's see. Oh, I don't know why. So, and for Government Operations Committee, we have myself, Sharon Moriwaki, Chair, and hopefully members will arrive.
Okay, thanks to everyone for their patience. Our first measure today is House Bill 1829 HD2 relating to bonds. It specifies that the entire allocation of the state bond ceiling shall be allocated to the HHFDC to be used for housing-related projects. It requires HHFDC in consultation with the respective counties to allocate specified percentage amounts for housing-related projects in each county, authorizes HHFDC to accumulate each county's annual allocation before assigning the allocation for housing-related projects pursuant to the discretion of the HHFDC Board of Directors, and authorizes HHFDC with the approval of the governor to assign and reassign HHFDC's allocation to the counties. It removes the authorization for the Department of Budget and Finance to request return of all or any part of the allocations of any of the counties and to issue and reassign the allocation to other counties or issuers. And it removes the authorization for counties to or issuers to request additional allocations of the state bond ceiling. And it changes the deadlines for reporting on unused or unassigned allocations and reversion of certain allocations to the state. Our first testifier today is the Department of the Attorney General with comments.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Attorney General Randall Nishiyama of the Department of the Attorney General. The department has provided our written comments and I am available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next testifier is HHFDC in support, followed by Department of Budget and Finance in opposition.
Good afternoon, chairs, members of the committee.
Well, go ahead, Director.
Good afternoon, members of the Joint Committee. Denise Matsubar for HHFDC. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Department of Budget and Finance in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair Chang, Chair Moriwaki, committee members. I'm Craig Hirai, Director of Finance of the state of Hawaii. We have serious concerns with this bill, the way it's drafted. And one of the principal concerns is there's about $1.5 billion of authorized SPURBs that are authorized and unissued that the bill really doesn't address, and other than perhaps just saying that they're dead. It's more, I think the bill can be drafted in a way that's not quite as violent. It depends on whether or not you want to just essentially kill all the existing SPURBs. I may be overstating that. I don't know, maybe the Deputy Attorney General might be able to put it more eloquently. Also, I don't know if, like I said, I think there are better or less violent ways to address this problem, or the drafting of this bill.
Thanks, Director. Thank you. This is an important issue, so I'm just going to ask you to take a look at this. Is this this proposed amendments has been circulated with our members? It's our understanding that you helped participate in drafting this proposed SD1 so that these concerns would be addressed.
Yes, this would be acceptable to BNF.
Can you talk about what the changes are and
Okay.
why your concerns would be addressed?
Well, it requires quarterly status report from the counties for their use of their obligations. Basically, unless requested by the governor and approved by the legislature, no special purpose revenue bonds requiring an allocation of annual state bond ceiling under 39B2 will be authorized after. And this date may want to, you gotta be careful about, it says June 30, 2022 and before December 31, 2028. That's for the next 5 years. Essentially, if you issue no SPURBs that require bond cap during that period, the bond cap will only be able to be used on pool-name multifamily bonds, basically, because that's under Chapter 201H. It's not a SPURB. And it doesn't, and hospital bonds don't require private activity bond cap. The reason I'm looking at the June 30 date is I'm not sure how you want to handle SPURBs that are processing through the legislature right now, whether you want to cut them off or grandfather them in. If you want to grandfather them in, it may have to be July 1st. I'm not sure what the effective date on the SPURB bills are. But that would have to be coordinated depending on whether you want to cut them off or not. And then any allocation of the annual state ceiling to a county with a population of over 500,000 after June 30th, 2022 or before December 31, 2028 shall only be used for rental housing projects eligible for the low-income housing tax credit under section 235-110.8 HRS. That's to address, I believe, a problem that has occurred with HHFDC and recently and in the past.
Okay, so one question on that last point, does it have to be projects eligible for the low-income housing tax credit, or could it be any projects? Housing projects.
I don't know what else they would use it for. They can't issue mortgage credit certificates, only HHFDC can. And I thought the whole purpose was to get the benefit of the federal low-income housing tax credit, which makes these things quite valuable.
Because doesn't the bill refer to housing related projects and not specifically low income housing tax credit?
Yeah, but I'm not sure, but I believe that that particular county said they were going to use it for LIHTC, and I don't know if they should have any objection to using it for that. I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure what else they can use it for.
Okay. So the chair is inclined to just leave it as housing projects instead of specifying LIHTC. And would that be problematic in your opinion?
Well, like I said, the benefit of the private activity bond cap for who-name multifamilies is actually the use of the federal low-income housing tax credit. It's quite valuable.
I see, but that would leave it up to HHFDC to choose which projects and if they go with LIHTC.
I think that was the problem that they're trying to address in the bill. I'm just saying, it's up to you, but I think that's the problem that was being addressed or trying to be addressed.
I think that makes sense. Okay.
So Chair, just to clarify, so are you saying, Craig, that housing related projects are all already LIHTC projects, or
No.
can it be used for other things, and this
No, but
leaving it open like this is better?
I'm not sure what it can be. In the housing area, I'm not sure. When I was at HHFDC, I only used it for mortgage credit certificates and LIHTC projects. So I'm not exact, and those only HHFDC can administer. So I'm not sure what else the city, that county has in mind, other than LIHTC, because they can issue private activity bonds that are eligible for low-income housing tax credit. They can't do mortgage credit certificates. I'm not sure what else they thought they were going to use it for. But I understand that the real crux of the matter was that, that we wanted to make sure they used it for LIHTC.
That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck.
Right.
Cheers. I'm sorry, my understanding of this is pretty limited despite having read the bill. So we're going to crowd out some other bond activities, but what's not clear to me is what other bond activities we're crowding out. We're only talking about private activity bonds, which is that, I don't know that, what's the distinction between that and the SPURB? Are SPURBs private activity bond? What's being crowded out? We're not crowding out transportation projects. They're not, these aren't geo bonds we're talking about.
Well, Senator, private activity bond cap is a IRS tax term. It's something that's dispensed by the IRS annually. The whole state gets a little over 300,000, half of which is allocated to the state and balance is allocated to the counties based on population.
200,000?
300,000.
300,000.
Yeah, a little over 300,000. 300 million.
Okay. Sorry, what are we even talking about?
Just missed a few digits there. Sorry. 300 million. So half of that goes to the state under the current statute, and the rest gets allocated to the county based on population. So you can imagine which county gets the biggest share of that. There is one county, Neighbor Island County, that uses part of its allocation, I believe, for infrastructure bonds. And normally, and I guess recently another county kept it back for, I believe, a LIHTC project that they were going to accumulate over a number of years, which might conceivably be lost under the current bill because they've got to accumulate it to use it. But yeah, historically, other than what I just said, almost all of it goes to HHFDC. I think only 80, from our standpoint, only 80 million wasn't given to HHFDC by BNF in the last 10 years. That doesn't mean that, 120 odd million wasn't lost in the last 10 years.
Okay. Thank you. That clarifies things for me. I guess the only other question I would have is, so Big Island is, I've not been supportive of privatizing their cesspool problems, but is this something that would cut into that too, or they would need to use that money?
I'm not sure whether they would have to, they would have to somehow privatize it or something to be able to use a private activity bond.
I see. So
it's not a government.
All right, I got you. All right. Thank you, chairs.
Okay, thank you, Director. We'll move on to the Department of Planning and Permitting of the City and County of Honolulu in opposition, followed by Catholic Charities Hawaii in support.
Catholic Church stands on our testimony support.
Thank you. We have the Kauai County Housing Agency in opposition.
Aloha, chairs, Chair Chang, Chair Morawaki, Adam Roversi. I'm the director of the Kauai County Housing Agency. We will stand by our written testimony in opposition. I'll be available to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Stanford Car Development in support. Chair Alice L. Lee of the Maui County Council in opposition. Sydney Higa in opposition. Ahe Group in opposition. Charlotte Poe in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 1829? Members who have any discussion or questions? Actually, I'll ask if HHFDC is still available. Is HHFDC still on?
Hi, Chair. I'm unable to open my camera. They have a control saying that it won't allow me to open my camera. Okay, here we go.
Okay, great. So I think you heard a little bit of the discussion with the BNF director. What would be your position on the amendments that he's proposing?
I'm sorry, the amendments he's proposing is I heard discussion on the concern for SPURBs and also the opposition by Kauai. My only comments would be, according to our records, HHFDC got 93% of the bond cap. That was the first year in the past 5 years.
Director, we're having some trouble hearing you. If you could speak more loudly and more into the microphone.
Okay, let me try and unplug and replug. Let me try this. How is that? Can you hear me a little bit better? Can you hear?
A little bit better, not much.
Yeah, not much difference.
Okay, let me try one more time. Can you hear me?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, let's try to move this. Okay, I'll try to do the best that I can. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
So I want to recognize the concern, BNF's concern for the SPURBs. I do agree there has to be a way to protect existing SPURBs. My understanding, though, is that 90% of the SPURBs do not actually materialize. So it would be based on how many of these actually wind up in application, a real application for a SPURB. The challenge that development has really for housing is certainty. And we do not get an allocation of bond cap really until the following year. So it doesn't offer developer certainty going into the application round for financing. This year, we received applications totaling almost $1 billion, $750 million. And what we have available from BNF was $360 million. But I already have $380 million worth of commitments in my pipeline. So conceptually, I have an $18 million shortfall just starting this financing year. And then I've got this other volume of requests going in. So there's a tremendous need. And I also want to recognize the need for the counties, but the criteria is such that it awards based on the strength of the project application. So that's kind of where we're at. So if there's a way we can find some middle ground, I'm open to it. I do agree that budget and finance should be managing the cap, but I also agree that it all should be dedicated to housing.
Okay.
Just Denise, just to clarify, the budget director looked at some amendments that we have to this to correct the problem with the SPURBs, and also some dates so that it would be a shorter period, I guess, from September. When was it? There's a drop dead period as well. September to, was it? Issuance of the bond be from September to a 5-year period, I think, September to June 30, 2022 to December 31, 2028. I don't know if you've seen the amended language, but we wanted to see what you thought about that. You haven't seen it.
Are you referring to a pilot period?
Yeah, but the language to cure the SPURB problem that budget and finance was concerned about.
So I haven't seen the proposed amendments, Senator, but if there was a way to accommodate the grandfathered SPURBs, knowing that only a small percentage materializes, and taking that into account, I think that we would
I
take a look
believe
at
it was to take into consideration.
The existing SPURBs have a lifespan, almost all the existing SPURBs have a lifespan of about, that are authorized and on issue, have a life of about 5 years. And if you're not issuing any new SPURBs for 5 years that require private activity bond cap, at the end of that period, you pretty much have gotten rid of them, but given them a chance to, the ones that already are authorized, you're giving them a chance to be issued. And like the executive director says, most of them never are. 90% of them never are, or more. So in about 5 years, almost all of the private activity bond SPURBs, well, almost all of the existing private activity bond SPURBs will be gone, and you won't be authorizing any new ones during that period that require private activity bond cap. So that should, when you take a look back from that period 5 years from now, it should be relatively a clean slate.
So these amendments address what then? It corrects.
It allows the existing private activity bond SPURBs an opportunity to get issued, whether they will be or not. Like historically, most of them never are.
And this is going forward.
Yeah, but it'll cut it off so that during the next 5 years there won't be any. Which means that with respect to any new SPURBs, so if there nobody comes in and gets authorized to be issued, all the bond cap will go to HHMC basically. Well, it'll go to the counties, and one county can only use it, well, that draft for LIHTC, and the rest will go to HHFDC in all likelihood. Well, the rest of it will go to HHFDC unless some existing SPURB gets authorized, gets issued.
Respond to the Kauai County or some of the county opposition to this, if in fact they're not using it, and what would be helpful to them if this went forward?
I don't know, maybe how I can count. My understanding there, though, is they're accumulating it. So, you know, if they started already by keeping FY21, they got to keep on going because they have so little of it. If they're trying to put it together for one project, it's going to be really hard to use what they have right now, to combine it with anybody else's bond like the HOU-MA multifamily bond program.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any further questions or discussion? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the next bill, which is House Bill 1837 HD1, relating to housing. It requires each county to submit biennial reports to the legislature on its efforts to reduce zoning and regulatory barriers to housing development. It requires HHFDC and HPHA to submit biennial reports based on their individual review of the county's reports to the legislature and their respective board on streamlining affordable housing development. Our first testifier is HPHA in support.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. We stand on our testimony in support. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next testifier is HHFDC with comments.
Thank you very much, chairs. We stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next testifier is the Honolulu Department of Planning and Permitting with comments, followed by the Maui Chamber of Commerce with comments, Hawaii Realtors Association in support, and Grassroots Institute of Hawaii with comments. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to testify on House Bill 1837? If not, members, any questions or discussion on HB 1837? Okay, if not, why don't we take a recess and we'll come back for decision. Okay, welcome back to the Joint Committees on Housing and Government Operations. We're going to do some decision making. Our first measure today is House Bill 1829 HD2 relating to bonds. Having conferred, the chair's recommendation will be to pass this measure with amendments. We'll be taking the budget and finance suggested amendments to amend the bill by requiring counties to submit quarterly reports on the status of allocations, prohibiting this allocation or the authorization of SPURBs after June 30th, 2022 and before December 31st, 2028, and specifying also that any allocation to a county over 500,000 population or after December 31st, 2028 shall be used only for housing projects. Okay, so and those amendments should have been distributed to the members, so you should have seen those as well. Any questions or discussion, members? Okay, if not, for the Committee on Housing, recommendation on HB 1829 HD2 is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Moriwaki.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Aye. Senator Pavella.
Aye.
On 1829. Chair, 5 ayes. Recommendations adopted.
Thank you very much.
Same recommendation for the Committee on Government Operations. Chair votes, on HB 1829. Chair votes aye. Senator Dela Cruz excused. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Gabbard excused. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted. Oh, Chair.
Your own
Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair. Our second measure today, HB 1837, relating to housing. Having conferred, the chair's recommendation will be to pass this measure with HHFDC's amendment for an additional FTE at an annual cost of $130,000 to manage reports from counties and prepare reports to the legislature. Any discussion or questions, members? Okay, if not, again, for HB 1837 HD1, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye.
With all members present, the chair voting aye. Is there any with reservations? Any in opposition? 5 ayes, your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you.
For Government Operations Committee, same recommendation to pass with amendments, House Bill 1837. All members present, chair votes aye, all members present. Any reservations, any opposition? Recommendations adopted.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda, and this agenda is now adjourned. Good afternoon and welcome to the deferred decision making for the Committee on Housing, the 1:30 p.m. agenda. We have two measures today. These were deferred from Tuesday. Oh, sorry. IT, do we have a countdown?
You're live, Chair.
We're live?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So our first measure that we're considering today is House Bill 1752 HD3 relating to housing. This is a measure that we heard on Tuesday. And so the chair's recommendation on HB 1752 HD3 will be to pass this measure unamended. Members, do we have any questions or discussion? Okay. If not, chair's recommendation for HB 1752 HD3 relating to housing is to pass unamended. Chair votes aye.
Chair voting aye, all members present. Any reservations? Any opposition? 5 ayes, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. And our second and last measure today is HB 2513 HD2 relating to the Rental Housing Revolving Fund. So again, this is a measure that we heard on Tuesday, and the chair's recommendation will be to pass this measure with amendments. We'll take the budget finance recommendation to delete the lapse language. We'll also change 61 to 60%. We'll reinstate the original funding amount of $150 million. And we'll also note in the committee report that the committee is requesting further clarity on the unusable $45 million addressed in SB 3048 by allowing funds ineligible for LIHTC to be used for non-LIHTC projects or non-private projects. Okay, members, any discussion or questions?
Just on the EMI, is it relearning it? Board?
Yes, from 61 to 60. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, if not, so for HB 2513 HD2, chair's recommendation will be to pass this measure with amendments. Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, with all members present. Are there any reservations? Any opposition? 5 ayes, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. There being no further business, this committee is adjourned.